convoluted plot, numerous crossovers with the imprint's main titles, and an ending that left either people very happy or very cold. So today on Pulp Tales, we're looking at probably the most important comic book series from 40 years ago, Secret Wars Part 2. Now, Secret Wars Part 2, obviously, is a sequel to the original Secret Wars. Secret Wars 2 is a 9-issue comic book limited series. Some people said it was going to be 9 issues, and crossover published from 85 to 86 by Marvel Comics. The series was written by Marvel's then editor-in-chief Jim Shooter and primary penciled by Il Milgrom. Now, the series was a sequel to the original Secret Wars published in 84 to 85. The series tied in with issues of other Marvel titles, with each tie-in featuring a Secret Wars 2 logo in the top right-hand corner to indicate that was a part of the overall story. And of course, the black costume that Spider-Man wore, that very famous Spider-Man comic book, comes from the first Secret Wars. This was the first time Marvel published a story where the reader would have to purchase multiple titles in order to read the entire story. Now, the entity that instigated the first Secret War, the Beyonder, visits Earth in search of enlightenment and inevitably comes into conflict with Earth's superhumans and the cosmic entities that exist in the Marvel Universe. At first, the Beyonder tries to figure out the meaning of the simple everyday tasks humans do, such as eating, sleeping, using the bathroom, etc. Then the Beyonder works for a mobster and becomes very powerful and obsessed with gadgets. The Earth's heroes are very suspicious of him, and this causes the Beyonder to retreat to a lone island. Mephisto recruits an army of supervillains with boosted strength, but the Thing fights him after he's giving augmented strength as well. The Beyonder falls in love with Dazzler, one of the X-Men, who then tries to start a relationship with Boom Boom, but both turn him down. It is also explained how Dr. Doom, who was killed in a normal timeline, was able to appear in the first Secret Wars. The Beyonder recreates Doom's body from his disintegrated particles, very good cover by the way, and sends him back in time to start the Secret Wars, causing Doom to live them in reverse order. The Beyonder is eventually dealt with, although the heroes also have to prevent destruction of the planet as a consequence of the action. Beyonder attempts to become a human while still retaining all his powers. The demon Mephisto then attempts to destroy him, while in his form since he's now merely human. A sequel in the form of a single issue revealed that Beyonder was an evolved cosmic cube and evolved in a being called Cosmos. Now, inkers Steve Lialoha, and colorist was Christy Schell. Now, the crossovers, mostly Avengers and X-Men. In July 85, Captain America 308, Iron Man 197, New Mutants 30, and Uncanny X-Men 196. In August 85, The Amazing Spider-Man 268, Fantastic Four 282, and Wyber's Spider-Man 6. Avengers 260 in September 85, Daredevil 223, and The Incredible Hulk 312. In October 85, Alpha Flight 28, Avengers 261, Dazzler 40, and Rom number 72. In November of 85, Doctor Strange 74, Fantastic Four 285, and The Thing 30. Now in December 85, mostly the biggest month, Cloak and Dagger 4, The Micronauts and New Voyages 6, Power Pack 18, Power Man and Iron Fist 121, Thor 363. In January 86, Amazing Spider-Man 273, New Defenders 152, New Mutants 36, Peter Parker the Spectacular Spider-Man 111, and Uncanny X-Men 202. In February 86, Amazing Spider-Man 274, Avengers 265, and Fantastic Four 288, New Mutants 37, and Uncanny X-Men 203. Last of the original, March 86, Avengers 266, although it was talked about in Quasar and Deadpool in 1990-98. Now, John Gregory Betancourt reviewed Secret Wars 2 for the July 86 issue of Amazing Stories and said that I feel the series was something special. I think you might be pleasantly surprised if you haven't read the comics lately. Secret Wars 2 was 85's best-selling comic book. However, it's one of the most despised comics of the year in the eyes of the fan press, receiving poor reviews and making numerous worst comics of the year lists. Now, the Secret Wars 2 paperback has material collected to December 2011. The Secret Wars 2, Secret Wars 2 1 and 9, but the Marvel Superhero Secret Wars Battle World box set includes all the comic books in chronological order, which came out in June 2015. Now, I read the sequel more than I read the original. I had more time on my hands because my first wife and I had broke up before my second year of college, or common law wife. The series itself, I think it was a very, very Watchmen type style, like, the small boxes. Now, there's a lot going on. There's some superfluous characters that never got on. But the idea, ladies and gentlemen, of the Beyonder, where did he come from? And he was completely Twitter-pated what happened before him. I think he believed he controlled the whole universe when he did not. Now, there's a very interesting podcast through Comics Explained from 5 years ago that talks about the full story of Secret Wars. I was inspired by this to do this podcast tonight. But the covers you're going to see in this podcast are quite outstanding and very bright, as we say. Now, according to Marvel's official page, and we're going to go over this in a second, the Beyonders come to Earth seeking the secrets of humanity, but his quest may spell the end of everything. All of Marvel's top characters appear in his unique tale of the universe's most powerful being searching for life's most elusive answers. Now, in my personal opinion, ladies and gentlemen, the Secret Wars 2, the best one, I think, is number 3. Now, we know there was various crossovers, but the one with Doctor Doom Rises, that's quite interesting. Now, number 9, where the Beyonder basically A Time to Die, the title, but it's very, like I said, very, very bright, and you don't see what the Beyonder really looks like until episode 3, or the cover of number 3. So, ladies and gentlemen, I give this series 7 out of 10, and the fact is, ladies and gentlemen, the X-Men were very hot at the time. The Avengers, John Byrne, the Fantastic Four, for what it tried to do, and Crisis on Infinite Earths, obviously with DC, but what it did here, it made Marvel back into the number 1 publishing company for comics. And I think Marvel was at its height at a time. You had so many good characters. Just like a good wrestling federation, you're only as good as your mid-card. And boys, what a mid-card they had. They had Alpha Flight. They had, the three Spider-Man titles. You had the New Mutants. But like I said, the spiritual aspect of the series is not really talked about, because some people thought the Beyonder was God. I think Nightcrawler was the most impacted by that, because he thought that God was omnipotent, and he found out about Beyonder. I think it's one of the X-Men comic books I have at home, and that's really shaped the Nightcrawler character towards actually X-Men 2000, the movie. Not the X-Men 2000, but X-Men 2, Nightcrawler's religious leanings. So, ladies and gentlemen, if you've never heard of Secret Wars Part 2 before, please check it out. The trade paperback, probably get it for less than $40. Check it out and let me know what you think in the comments. I want to really hear from you what your favorite incident in the Secret Wars. So if you like what you're doing here on Pulp Tales, our our comic book column, let us know what to like, comment, subscribe, or share.